It was that moment at the company holiday gala in a sleek Atlanta hotel ballroom. Under the soft glow of chandeliers and amid the clink of champagne glasses, when everything I'd buried deep inside finally cracked open. My parents, dressed in their finest, Dad in his crisp navy suit, Mom with her pearl necklace catching the light, stood at the podium, beaming with pride as they announced to the room full of employees, investors, and our top clients that my younger brother, Tyler, would be the one to inherit and steer the family commercial real estate firm into the future. The same firm I'd clawed into existence from a rundown strip mall office in the suburbs, turning it into a powerhouse handling multi-million-dollar deals across the Southeast. Tyler lounged at the head table, that lazy smirk playing on his lips. His girlfriend Lila perched beside him like they'd scripted this triumph. I sat there, heart pounding in my chest like a trapped animal. But I forced a calm smile, nodded graciously, and raised my glass in a toast that tasted like ash. No outburst. No scene, just a quiet endurance that masked the storm brewing inside. That night, as I drove home through the humid Georgia highways, the weight of it all pressed down. Memories flooding in like a slow, relentless tide, whispering of every sacrifice I'd made in silence, every dream I'd shelved for the sake of family. Back then, fresh out of college with a business degree from Emory, I'd turned down lucrative gigs in bustling New York firms, offers that promised fast tracks to executive suites and salaries that could have bought me freedom. But my parents had pleaded, their voices thick with that familiar mix of guilt and promise, urging me to return to Atlanta and revive the tiny real estate venture they'd started in our garage during the recession. It's our legacy, Emily, they'd said, eyes pleading over family dinners heavy with unspoken expectations. As the eldest, I felt the pull, the cultural weight of duty. The idea that blood ties meant carrying the load without complaint, even if it meant dimming my own light. So I came back, convinced it was noble, that we'd build something unbreakable together. Those first years were a grind that hollowed me out. Day by day, the company teetered on bankruptcy, bills stacking up like accusations, clients scarce in a market still reeling from the crash. I pounded the pavement, cold calling developers from a folding table in that stuffy garage, crisscrossing Atlanta's endless sprawl to pitch rundown warehouses and empty retail spaces no one else would touch. I sealed our breakthrough deals alone, haggling until dawn over greasy diner tables, turning vacant lots into thriving hubs. When cash flow dried up and payroll loomed, I'd siphon from my meager savings, telling no one, whispering to myself that it was just temporary. That loyalty demanded this quiet suffering. The costs mounted in the shadows, invisible to everyone but me. Vacations to the beaches of Florida or the mountains of North Carolina, canceled, year after year, while friends flooded my social feeds with sun-kissed selfies. Relationships withered. There was that kind-hearted guy from grad school who wanted weekends together, building a life. But I pushed him away, citing endless site inspections and contract reviews, choosing the firm's survival over my own heartbeat. Sundays, when others recharged with barbecues or hikes, I networked at stuffy chamber events or buried myself in market reports. The glow of my laptop, the only company in a silent apartment. All for the family dream, fueled by the belief that my sweat would secure a place for us all. But as the firm blossomed, new offices in Midtown, steady commissions rolling in, our name whispered with respect in boardrooms, I saw the cracks. My parents lauded me in public. Toasts at staff meetings ringing with Emily's the backbone, but at home, they coddled Tyler, now 29, letting him bounce from failed startups to vague projects without a whisper of accountability. My little sister, Mia, 26, floated through life on art classes and spontaneous trips, her whims funded by the stability I'd bled for. I'd bankrolled the family home upgrades, Tyler's half-hearted online courses, Mia's endless explorations, all while convincing myself it was my role. That enduring in silence was the mark of strength, not weakness. That drive home from the party twisted those illusions into knots. The Atlanta skyline blurred through tears I refused to let fall. Each mile unraveling the lie, I wasn't part of a legacy, I was the scaffold. The invisible prop holding up their comfort while Tyler waited to claim the glory without the grit. The betrayal simmered. Not in shouts, but in the quiet realization that my silence had enabled it all years of being the reliable one. The fixer. While they plotted this handover behind grateful smiles. By the time I reached my modest condo overlooking the Chattahoochee River, a cold resolve had settled in my bones, sharper than any anger. I poured a stiff bourbon, the burn matching the fire in my gut, and stared at the city lights winking like mocking eyes. No more. The chains of obligation, forged in cultural whispers of filial piety and family first, snapped that night. I'd reclaim what was mine, not with noise, but with the devastating power of absence. The next morning, sunlight pierced the blinds like a judgment. My phone already alive with concerned texts from my closest friend, Jordan. She'd heard whispers from a coworker at the party and insisted on coming over, arriving with steaming lattes and fresh bagels from our go-to spot in Buckhead. We sat on the balcony, the river murmuring below, and I let it spill, the polished facade of the gala shattering under my parents' words. Tyler's smug satisfaction carving deeper than any knife, the way it exposed the rot in our so-called bond. Jordan didn't interrupt with platitudes, she listened, her steady gaze pulling out the poison I'd swallowed for years, validating the ache without pity. As we talked, the conversation turned to action, her words igniting a spark. You've built this, Emily. They can't take your worth. Emboldened, I composed messages to my top 20 clients, the ones I'd nurtured through economic dips, late-night crises, and triumphant closings. Professional, unemotional, I'm embarking on a new venture and would value continuing our partnership. The responses flooded in, not with hesitation, but loyalty, calls praising my expertise, emails pledging allegiance. One major developer, whose massive mixed-use project I'd salvaged from collapse, vowed to follow exclusively. It wasn't revenge yet, it was the first breath of freedom. The quiet affirmation that my value stood alone. The backlash came like a gathering storm. Phone calls from my parents piling up like unpaid debts. Dad's voicemails dripped with disapproval. You're tearing apart what we built as a family. Think of the legacy. Moms were laced with tears. We can talk this out. Blood is thicker than water. Emily, don't turn your back on us. Tyler and Mia bombarded the family chat. Tyler accusing me of greed, Mia whining about how my drama disrupted their lives. Each message twisted the knife, painting me as the villain for daring to step out of line, ignoring the decades I'd toiled in their shadow. The pressure built, a cultural echo of duty clawing at me. How could I abandon them? But the hurt fueled my resolve. I replied curtly at first, then blocked them one by one, the silence descending like a merciful veil. Jordan became my anchor, dragging me to quiet dinners in Little Five Points or hikes in the North Georgia woods. Her presence a reminder that support didn't come with strings. With the noise muted, I poured into the new firm, scouting a cozy office in Midtown, filing LLC papers under Georgia law, sketching business plans late into the night. Each step was a quiet act of defiance, transforming betrayal's sting into fuel. Months in, as Atlanta's humid summer gave way to crisp fall, the rumors slithered through the industry grapevine. Tyler and Mia spreading tales at networking mixers, framing me as the selfish deserter who'd poached clients out of spite. It hit like a gut punch, reopening scars. The fear that my hard-earned reputation might crumble under their lies gnawing at me during sleepless nights. But the clients' reactions flipped the script. Instead of doubt, they doubled down, reaching out with contracts in hand, their trust in my track record unshakable. The biggest blow to the old firm came when our flagship client, a sprawling office park development, switched allegiance. Citing my unmatched dedication, the dominoes fell, revenue halved for them. Debts mounting under Georgia's unforgiving business laws. Tyler floundered without my safety net. Quitting after botched deals, Mia retreated further into denial. Their downfall wasn't my plot, it was the natural price of their choices. A slow erosion that mirrored the quiet erosion they'd inflicted on me. 6 months later, standing in my new office with its panoramic views of Peachtree Street, I watched my small team close our first independent mega deal. The adrenaline buzzing like a long-suppressed high. The firm grew roots, attracting sharp talent drawn to our client-first ethos. Revenues surging past projections. Industry nods followed, invites to Atlanta real estate summits, features in local biz journals. Then came the call from Aunt Clara in Savannah. Her voice warm over the line. I've watched from afar. Emily, you were right to break free. She visited, sharing coffee in my office. Her apology for past silence healing cracks I hadn't named. Her pride, untethered to obligation, was a balm amid the wreckage. A year on, at the state's premier conference in the Georgia World Congress Center, I keynoted on resilience in volatile markets. The applause washing over me like vindication. Spotting my parents in the crowd, their hesitant approach stirred old ghosts. Let's reconcile. For family's sake, but I declined politely, walking away with head high. Their firm limped on. Buried in loans, Tyler drifted to odd jobs, Mia unchanged. The cost of my choice? Isolation's bite. The cultural guilt that whispered in quiet moments. But the reward? A life reclaimed. Built on scars turned to strength. Where silence wasn't weakness, but the ultimate reckoning.